A school shooting, voting machines, and Oregon are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is February 14th, 2022, 45th day of the year, and we got 230 days left. It is the 56th day of winter, and it is Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day started off as Saint Valentine's Day. It was honoring the Christian saint named Valentinus. Valentinus. Anyway, February 14th, or Valentine's Day, didn't really become a romantic thing until the high Middle Ages. It started off as a tradition of courtly love was flourishing, the honeymoon phase. And during the 18th century in England, this day evolved into an occasion in which lovers expressed their love for each other by presenting flowers and other offerings, Valentine's cards, whatever. And now we buy people chocolate. I may have told this story before on this channel, maybe last Valentine's Day, but it's worth telling again. In high school, I had a friend whose car broke down and he had to go drop something off at a girl's house for Valentine's Day. When I pulled up with him, she was on the porch with another dude. He walked up and handed her the stuff. Well, kind of roughly, said something to them and got back in the car, and we never spoke about it again. All right, let's see what else February 14th has given us. 1779, the American Revolutionary War. The Battle of Kettle Creek is fought in Georgia. This battle was significant because it was the first major victory for the Patriots. A lot of people don't understand that the Revolutionary War was in the South too. You talk to people and they always think it was like only in Connecticut and Washington, D.C. area and maybe Pennsylvania. Nobody ever thinks it went all the way down to Georgia. It did. 1859, Oregon is admitted as the 33rd U.S. state. This was only 50 years after Lewis and Clark first stepped foot in Oregon. They were like fast-tracked to statehood. 1899, voting machines are approved by the U.S. Congress and put into use on the next federal election. And now, all we hear about is voting machines are corrupt and something about Venezuelan leader put them together to steal elections, even though he'd been dead a few years. It's a strange story. I try not to follow it. 1912, the U.S. Navy commissions the first class of diesel-powered submarines. 43 years later, we decided to switch over to nuclear-powered submarines. The first nuclear-powered U.S. submarine was known as the Nautilus. 1920, the League of Women Voters is founded in Chicago. 1924, the Computing, Tabulating, Recording Company changes its name to International Business Machines Corporation, or IBM. 1983, United American Bank of Knoxville, Tennessee collapses. Its president, Jake Butcher, is later convicted of fraud. This was very interesting. Jake Butcher was a Marine from Tennessee, and when he got out of the Marine Corps, he had worked at his father's bank. One thing led to another. Him and his younger brother, C.H. Butcher, began buying stock in numerous Tennessee banks starting around 1968. By 1974, the Butcher brothers owned or controlled 8 banks. So he was kind of a big name in Tennessee and Knoxville and decided to get into politics. In 1974, he sought the Democratic Party nomination for governor of Tennessee, but he lost to Ray Blanton in the primary. After that one, Butcher earned a nomination in 1978, defeating former Nashville Mayor Richard Fulton and newcomer Bob Clement. Butcher went on to lose the primary to a giant in Tennessee politics, Lamar Alexander. By the early 80s, the Butcher brothers' banking practices were kind of shady, and the rumors started to swirl. This, of course, led to an investigation, which didn't go well for the Butcher brothers. On November 1st, 1982, 180 federal bank regulators from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation simultaneously raided all the Butcher brothers' 29 bank branches and offices, thereby preventing transfer of any funds or any paperwork to kind of cover their tracks. They just swooped in and put everything on hold. All the evidence that they gathered made it clear that they were given illegal loans, forging signatures, a lot of weird stuff. A whole lot of fraud was going on in these Tennessee banks. Well, the two Butcher brothers, they go to the big house. Jake Butcher was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison in 1985, but was paroled in 1992 because he's a white-collared criminal and they never do all their time. His younger brother, C.H. Butcher, was also sent to prison for securities fraud. He was released in 1993. He died in 2002. Jake Butcher went on to live kind of a normal life. He'd run completely out of money. At one point, he was worth like $35 million, but when they finally got through the court case and everything like that, and they were going to divvy out his money, he only had $11 million. Now, only $11 million doesn't sound like a problem until you realize that he had about $32 million in liabilities. He finished off his life as a Toyota distributor and as a real estate developer. His assets, when he finally died, were auctioned off to satisfy creditors. He died in 2017 in Atlanta. 2000, the spacecraft near Shoemaker enters orbit around asteroid 433 Eros, the first spacecraft to orbit an asteroid. Movies released on February 14th, 1997. Fools Rush In. This movie has real significance to me. I'll give you the quick rundown of the movie. So Matthew Perry plays a guy from New York that comes out to Las Vegas to work on the building of a casino. He's like a developer, an architect, something like that. Well, he's new in town, meets a girl at a restaurant who's played by Selma Hayek, and they have a one-night stand. She leaves in the morning before he wakes up, and that's that, just a one-night stand. She shows up back at his house like 3-4 months later. He's having friends over, they're barbecuing, and knocks on the door, and he's all, oh, hey, didn't even know her name. And she comes in, and he's all, did you like forget something, or what's going on? And she's drinking a glass of water. She goes, no, I didn't forget something. He goes, you leave something here? And she said, no, I picked up something here. I'm pregnant. And then the movie just goes from there. Now, the reason why this has significance to me, at the time, I was like a struggling stand-up comedian and couldn't find my footing, didn't know what I was doing. I was just struggling. I'm married to a Mexican woman. Watching this movie gave me a great idea, and I transformed my whole comedy act into white guy marries Hispanic girl type thing, and the differences between us. It played out pretty good for a while. Then I gave up comedy. In the end, this movie's funny, heartwarming, and they end up as a couple, so they live happily ever after. There's one great part in there because he's, Manhattan, New York, very Caucasian. His parents are very, upper class, and they come to visit him out in Vegas. He hasn't told his parents that he's living with this girl and she's pregnant. This whole thing goes on where he's trying to tell him it, but the parents are under the impression that she's actually his maid, and then finally realize that he had slept with her, and his dad's like, sleeping with the help. And he's like, well, not really, but it goes through this neat thing. It's a great movie. It'll make you feel good at the end. Born on February 14th, 1942, Michael Bloomberg. He's an American independent politician, philanthropist, businessman who served 3 consecutive terms as New York City's mayor. He is the founder and owner of Bloomberg LP, the global financial data media company, and he has a net worth of about $40 billion, making him one of the wealthiest men in the world. He worked as a parking lot attendant to pay for his tuition at Johns Hopkins University. 2012, when he was the mayor of New York, he attempted to ban the sale of many sweetened drinks like sodas in more than 16-ounce glasses. New York's got a bunch of problems, but this guy's gonna go to war with the Big Gulp or something. Anyway, the New York Supreme Court struck down the law just hours before it went into effect. Died on February 14th. I'm going to bring this one up every year. The shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. 17 fatalities, 15 injuries. This is one of the deadliest school massacres we've ever had. I mean, the most horrific one was Sandy Hook in 2012, and then this one in 2018. A couple years ago, I tried to read the names of the kids, and it honestly took me an hour to get through it. It was rough. I couldn't get my voice together. I'm going to bring this one up every single year I do one of these videos on February 14th. All right, everyone, that's today's video. Have a great day. Be nice to each other.